Where is Joe Biden? I'd like to have proof of life today. Look, if I'm China, Taiwan looks pretty enticing right at this moment. You've got an American president who's apparently dropped out of the race, endorsed his vice president, has not appeared on camera, has not issued even so much as a photograph, and it doesn't look like the resignation or whatever you'd call that, exit from the race, I guess, is even on official letterhead. His signature looks weird, and his brother says, we're just grateful to have whatever time we have left. That comes from Frank Biden. Whatever time we have left sounds pretty ominous. Jake Novak has been involved in the news cycle for 3 decades at places like Fox and CNN and elsewhere. Become a good contributor to this program. Jake, good to have you up so early. Thank you, my friend.
My pleasure. Amazing times. Amazing times.
So where is Joe Biden? Let's just start with your gut on this one, Jake.
Well, I think he was probably dragged so kicking and screaming in this that, I mean, listen, if the administration doesn't want people to have engage in conspiracy theories, then stop giving us so much material to engage in conspiracy theories. I agree with you.
Yeah.
I agree with you. This looks so fishy, but I'll say this, and this is not because I'm a skeptic about problems in the administration by any means, but I have a feeling that the reason why this looks so bad without any real appearance and with a really fishy-looking signature is I think Joe Biden was dragged so kicking and screaming into this that he probably stormed out of the room and said, you guys sign it, you guys write it, I'll drop out, but I'm not helping. I think that's probably what happened.
Yeah, I heard Dana Perino say yesterday as I was surfing around, we're living Weekend at Bernie's in real life at the White House, and that's just awful. And she, like I, want proof of life. I mean, he'll come out and talk later this week about what? About what exactly? So anyhow, so let's move right straight to Kamala Harris. Well, we'll keep an eye on Joe Biden, but his entire schedule has been wiped. There's nothing there from what I can tell, right? So who's going to run with Kamala Harris? She's a stone-cold loser, and I wonder, Pete Hoekstra just told me, they think it's a stone-cold loser. They'll find somebody else at the convention, which is why Barack Obama has not endorsed. What do you think?
Well, I think that, again, I think that their feeling is going to be twofold. First of all, right, she's a stone-cold loser. So the upwardly mobile people in the party, the Gavin Newsoms, even the Josh Shapiros, they're not going to want to be on this ticket. I really don't think they want to. I think they're making it clear that they don't want to. So that means that they're also going to want someone who's older, maybe someone who used to be in the administration. I was joking about somebody maybe like John Kerry, though I think he's 80, but somebody like that, somebody older who has no future. And also because there's nobody else who wants to join this ticket, and also because they have no foreign policy experience whatsoever on this ticket. So maybe they want to do that. It's all about looking less bad. You know what I mean? Well,
Kamala Harris, who we just had a remark from when she was on with NBC, you haven't gone to the border. I haven't gone to Europe either. What a brilliant response. Here's from Gretchen Whitmer, part of her statement. My job in this election will remain the same. Doing everything I can to elect Democrats and stop Donald Trump, a convicted felon whose agenda of raising family costs, so on and so forth. Getting Democrats elected, not Kamala Harris elected, Democrats. And so this is what I think the strategy might be. However much money they can convert to down ballot races, because they know the Senate was already in bad shape for them in places like Ohio and Montana. This certainly doesn't help their cause to get Democrats out of the polls. Kamala Harris, they have a problem here. You can't get rid of a woman of color and replace her with some white guy or some white woman. It would disenfranchise black voters that have already been leaving their party to vote for Donald Trump in all the polling, right? I mean, they've got problems times 10 here, don't they?
They're right. And, another thing, Steve, is that they have an incredibly thin bench in this party, not just for president, but in the congressional races. And there's this easy, understandable reason for that. Most of the Democrat power base comes from these one-party blue states where these candidates are not challenged politically, they're not challenged by the news media, and boy, does it show. I mean, Kamala Harris is, even though she's been vice president for 3.5 years, still talks like she's in a 7th grade election for treasurer, the student body. And that's what they've got, and that's why they're so weak nationally. They're not battle-tested like Republicans are.
Well, the two biggest issues continue to be the economy, Bidenomics, and we'll continue to call it that because they hate that, and the border. Well, your border czar is Kamala Harris. Everybody knows what the disaster of the border has been. I mean, talk about putting up a candidate that cannot possibly muster the votes to win. There she is. Who's going to vote for somebody who hasn't even been to the border? Who is your border czar, right? She's been there since that NBC interview, but barely. It's a disaster, right?
Yeah, and you mentioned the two issues that really feed off each other. Steve, when you talk about the economy being a problem in this country, you're really talking about inflation, which is the worst kind of economic problem to have because it hits all economic levels. Everyone gets angry about it. And the border problem has actually exacerbated it because remember, the Chamber of Commerce Republican types, the libertarian types used to always tell us, oh, free immigration, open immigration lowers prices, lowers wages, and keeps prices down. Well, that argument's been blown out of the water. So the border has become worse because of this, as far as the minds of the American people are concerned. And inflation has gotten worse because of this in the minds of the American people. So these are two issues feeding off each other at the same time. And again, I would urge people, don't say economy, say inflation, because that's really the economy issue right now.
Yeah, you know, I've already booked my tickets to Chicago for the DNC. It's going to be entertaining, I believe, Jake. We'll be there on the floor of the Democratic National Convention. We'll see what happens. My guess is they're stuck with Kamala. But the bigger question is, and I've said this for a while, will Joe Biden make it to November 5? I don't think so. I don't think he makes it there. Obviously, he's been diagnosed with his family's indicating he has some sort of terminal illness. That's what the breadcrumbs here, which we've known for a while that he's very ill. Doesn't surprise anybody, but it's deeply disappointing. And they lied. Jake, I'll give you the last word.
Well, that's right. I mean, listen, this is the greatest scandal. You mentioned it in your opening monologue. This is actually the greatest scandal in American history. And I know things sound worse than this in our history books, but this couldn't be worse. Because not only is it about the debilitating situation with the president of the United States, it also indicts hundreds of people. How many people were involved in Watergate? 30, 40? We're talking about hundreds of people, thousands of people in the news media, all in on this. And the worst thing of all, Steve, it's the most understandable political scandal of all time. It's easy to get, and sadly for a lot of people, it's relatable. We've all had somebody in our life who has gone down quickly because of dementia or over the years because of dementia. Right. And that's the problem.
It's a huge problem. They all lied. So did the media. What credibility do they have left because they knew as well? Jake Novak, thank you, as always.
My pleasure.